Hi YouTube, welcome to another Escarlesco video. Capi Varento, get your heart ready because I'm going to bring one of the greatest strategic battles we've had in Norway chess. The game played yesterday, taking advantage of the fact that today is a rest day at the event, Nakamura against the current world champion, Gukesh. This is a game that could go into any strategy book on the face of this planet. There's no way you can watch a game like this and not come out of it somehow playing better chess. It's a spectacular thing. But I'm warning you, hold onto your seat, get your popcorn ready. We're about to watch Naka's battle against the world champion now. Favorite quadrino of... Whoa, Naka plays the center game opening. Which you see every now and then, of course, at the highest level of chess. Look at what Gukesh accepted. The recapture comes and everything is very logical here. Why? Gukesh threatens the central pawn and Naka defended with bishop to b4. The idea behind this move is to renew the threat on the e4 pawn, pinning the knight on c3. Here, Nakamura captured on c6. Capturing with the d-pawn loses castling rights and makes the position messy for black. Recapturing towards the center renews the threat to the e4 pawn, which Naka defends with the bishop to d3, preparing to castle. After castling, d5 is played, threatening the e4 pawn again. Naka captures on d5 and Gukesh plays a defensive move. The position remains technical with logical moves. Which one, Raphael? He plays bishop to 4. Raphael, calm down. Let's show some respect. How can threatening the queen be a defensive move? Because you're going to defend the queen, of course. That's something natural for white. And this move actually provokes the move that Nakamura played, which is f3, and now you understand Gukesh's defensive idea. He wants to defend, look at that, exchange the light-squared bishop. He argues here that the bishop on d3 is much more active, aiming at the black king, and he wants to trade these bishops. So it's actually a defensive move. Notice that Naka even has the option here to take the c6 pawn now, but then you get queen to a4, and after that, I take here and recover my pawn, still threatening on c6. Here, Naka kept developing, and all of this is very natural. Notice that nobody used any time on the clock. Everything was played quickly. Gukesh quickly recovers his pawn on d5, followed by an exchange that diverts the queen controlling the d5 pawn. The position remains technical. It was a quick move, it's scary. A little, because now Naka plays knight takes d5, attacking the queen and attacking the bishop. Raphael, things are going to get complicated here, because now how is Gukesh going to deal with this double attack on the queen and the bishop? There's no issue. Gukesh regains the pawn by capturing on b2. Wait, Raphael. I don't get it. Why not check and after king e1 capture the knight? Isn't this good for Gukesh? No. Because you take bishop, capture on h7 check and lose the queen. You can always throw the game because of a blunder. That's nothing new. I do that myself every day. Gukesh simply took on b2, getting his pawn back. It seems totally normal. It still looks like there are tactics, right? Naka played rook to b1 attacking the queen. If the queen moves, I'm taking the bishop. But first, Gukesh checks. And when the king goes to h1, he defends his queen. After all this, Raphael, what's happening? The black pieces here kept the pair of bishops. Although Gukesh's pieces are a bit better than Naka's, they're a bit more active. The bishop is looking at h7, the knight is centralized, and Nakamura gains another tempo on the exposed queen. In the tactical theme, which you still can't, hopefully, d5, otherwise you lose the queen with bishop h7, so queen d6 is played, and now knight e7, king h8, and at this moment comes the move queen e2. The idea behind this move by Nakamura is to try to force Gukesh to no longer have the pair of bishops on the board, so he wants Gukesh to actually exchange or lose the pair of bishops, defending against the mate idea with bishop g6. So Naka is already kind of keeping an eye on that. No one has spent time on the clock yet. It's still a very technical position. I'll play rook b8 from here, and now Naka actually threatens mate with queen e4 Raphael. That always gives you chills. Do you think Gukesh got scared too? Not at all. See that Gukesh here doesn't have many defensive moves. If he plays something like g6, you get g4 and lose the bishop. If you play f5, I can move the rook, look there, and take the pawn, winning a pawn here. So bishop e6 seems forced, and that was the idea. That's what Naka was already waiting for. Gukesh played this move And now Naka breaks Gukesh's pair of bishops, bringing the position to opposite-colored bishops, which seems, well, super balanced, right? Pair of bishops, opposite-colored bishops that usually draws. Careful, this is where the art begins. Because the most natural recapture is always to recapture toward the center, unless there's something else that invalidates that, Gukesh took with the f-pawn in this position. He spent some time on this move. On the clock, he calculated here, but he took with this pawn, which is incredible, and in this position, it's a mistake. It's not that surprising of a mistake because this recapture is usually not the most common one. But Gukesh evaluated here that this can't be a problem at all. Because he's kind of opening this f-file for his rook, and the whole point of this mistake, which seems like something absurd to punish, is that the black king becomes more vulnerable with this open diagonal. At this moment, notice that it's not obvious at all. It's not easy to see, so much so that Gukesh didn't realize this could be a problem. But look at how Nakamura is going to play this game first. He trades on b8, removing Gukesh's rook in the process. And now he plays the move g3, which, for now, he's not yet going after the king's theme, which isn't so well placed anymore with this weakened diagonal, but that confirmation will come soon. Gukesh is going to realize this. Notice that Gukesh now brings the rook back to f8. He's saying, be careful, that pawn of yours on f3 can also be a target. Naka moves his king to g2, slightly improving its position. Gukesh maintains the status quo in a solid position with opposite-colored bishops. And here comes the theme, trying to punish that diagonal. Look at Naka's move. He played h4. This move is really refined. And now it really puts Gukesh in a very complicated situation because look at his idea. He's threatening h5 and you can't take here because otherwise you're already facing mating threats. So the position is no longer that simple to solve. And someday, if this h-file also opens up, look over there. There could be attacking themes coming from here. I hold the g-square because your king doesn't have as much freedom as it would if you still had a pawn controlling this diagonal, so your king is actually more exposed, and Naka is going to try to put pressure on this position with this small strategic theme. Well, Gukesh defended. Look, this is a defensive move. He held the h5 square, although it looks like he wants to come into f2. That could be an idea too, but I just moved my king. Here, the move f4 was played, so there it is. Naka, of course, is also already defending against ideas like queen to d2, and at some point the f3 pawn falling here. Although it wasn't really a threat, there are some mating themes coming in on the 8th rank. But Naka also brings a plan of, in the future, using this e5 square as a support to start infiltrating with the rook. Queen f5 was played. So Gukesh raises the white flag, trading queens and cooling things down as it limits attacking themes. Naka, of course, didn't trade queens with queen c4. He needs the queen to exploit the weaknesses against the black king. At this moment, Gukesh moves the queen to f6, waiting to see where Naka will go. And look at the importance of f4 rook e5, and now the pieces are starting to come in. This move also renews the pressure that can arise here on the h5 square, with mate threats on h7. Notice how the queen on c4 takes away the king's escape square. See how things are starting to work. And Gukesh was already running low on time. Well, at this point, Guk played. Queen d6 paused and waited, and look at the next move. Gukesh's idea here is to try to destabilize the rook on e5 and come down with queen a4, bishop a4, and Naka played another fine move. See how he keeps limiting Gukesh's bishop? That discomfort for the king, a bit more vulnerable. Queen a3 is played. There are some checks coming in at the right moment. Naka already anticipated any check that might come. And now, queen d6, a crucial moment as they will repeat moves. Naka retracts the king, and Gukesh moves the queen back to a3. Naka plays king h3, queen d6, indicating Gukesh seeks a draw. And Naka said, no, it was just to confirm if you wanted a draw, if you feel worse, that was confirmed. And Naka played queen e4, obviously refusing the repetition. He's preparing the idea of rook e8. At the right time, he comes back with the themes. Here he reinforces the idea of h5 again. You can't take it. Otherwise, it's checkmate. On move h7, Gukesh plays bishop c5, staying put. Waiting to see where Naka goes. Naka goes back, king g2. Gukesh moves the queen to b6, followed by king h3. Naka repeats that Gukesh wants a draw, with no doubt about it. Gukesh moves the queen to d6, and Naka said, no, one more time. It looks like he's going to accept the draw, but he refuses. because he keeps putting on the pressure. And this move is a bombshell. You still can't handle this theme. You get checkmated in one. On h7, Gukesh is in a dramatic situation. If the capture happens, his king will become very vulnerable. He played qd7, Naka played king g2, and now bd6. Talking about show with this rook, there's no problem. Naka puts the rook on e6. This is brutal. Because of course, you still can't capture. Here because of the mate, and now I'm threatening to destroy your safety, or part of the safety your king still has. Naka defended this g6 square with the rook, so trying to take away some of the heavy pieces. I mean, Gukesh tried to make this exchange, and here Nakamura again keeps the pieces in the game. Look at this dramatic position, right? Because if you come back here, I can even trade. Then I take, and I'm winning the pawn, and your king is completely vulnerable. Gukesh moved the bishop back to keep the rook watching the 6th rank. And here Naka brings in the queen. Look at that move, look at that move. A technical position. Here you can see the technique in practice. Because this move threatens mate, you can't take it under any circumstances. You lose the game, Gukesh has to defend the bishop. Here he plays queen to d6 before. You could defend this with the king, but you lose the bishop. If you move the bishop to c4, the king must retreat, leading to checkmate. This illustrates how weakening the diagonal creates discomfort for the opponent. So Gukesh defended with the queen. And now Naka played rook to d8, trying to remove the queen from defending the bishop. Gukesh can't ignore this threat, so he brings the queen back. e7, and now Naka takes here on g6. The position is more open now. Take a look. The king becomes vulnerable as Nakamura played queen c8. His idea is to eventually play queen h3, preparing bishop c4. By taking away the g8 square, he sets up mate with queen h3. It's incredible. Queen h3 leads to checkmate. Gukesh starts playing against the squares. To play b4 and take away the g8 square from the king, Gukesh must defend. And he defended a square. So, in chess, you don't just attack pieces. No, you can attack the squares too, where those pieces still plan to go. So that's a very subtle defensive move. And he's keeping an eye on queen h5, also to defend queen h3. Here, Naka played the move b4 again. He renews the idea of bishop d5, look at that. Because that square is defended by the rook. He removes the g8 square threatening mate with queen 3. Additionally, this move creates a blockade. The queen moves to control h5. Look at the refinement, the subtlety. Gukesh here, because he tried to find counterplay. Here it's desperation. Desperate to expose Nakamura's king, he took the pawn. The attack targets the rook with bishop d5 and queen 3. Nakamura's positional chess play is scary. Gukesh played queen f2. He tried a tactic. The king moves to h3, the checks run out, and the rook is threatened. Rook f7 is played in response. It's an interesting idea from Gukesh because the king is on h3. It doesn't allow the check with the queen. The king is already occupying a square that you plan to enter, but here Naka drops another bomb full of ideas, which is the move g6. Here you completely lose control of the black position. In short, this position no longer has any kind of defense, although Gukesh will keep playing. Here, Guk played the move rook to f6, and the idea behind this move is that you create a bunch of mating threats on the light squares, h7, g8, all of that. And there's also an idea in the future to put the bishop here, and then the rook no longer defends the bishop on f8. The king can't get closer either. At this point, this move was played. Queen to g4 threatens mate with queen to h4 and h7. Gukesh defended by playing queen to f1 after bishop to e2 attacked the queen. Gukesh played queen to c1, bringing the queen back, to h6 to avoid getting checkmated with the queen on h4. That's what happens. Naka played queen to h4. Gukesh went back on defense, and at this moment comes the last move of the game, which is bishop to d5 here. There's no more solution. Gukesh resigned. Now, why did he resign? That's what we're going to see, because the whole idea is that this move threatens bishop to f7, and there's no way to defend it. It's incredible how opening up this diagonal works. That was the end of the game here for Gukesh. Naka punished with mastery, because if the game continued, one of the ideas is that here, after bishop to d5, you can trade queens. I can take back with the pawn or with the king. Either way, with the king, it's already winning. You can't take here, otherwise you hang the bishop and you don't have a move. Whatever move you make, the next one is bishop to f7. And you can't defend the bishop anymore. Game over, Nakamura. Terrible. And it's on the air. The precision of this match, Naka playing like a terrifying and scary machine. And notice that the mistake in the game was taking with the wrong pawn, opening up that diagonal, which cost the game, and a technical, really technical match positional, where of course you learn a lot of chess. In this game, understanding details is crucial. The outcome is uncertain. Caruana leads the tournament. Half a point ahead of Magnus and Magnus. Half a point ahead of Naka Gukesh is in 4th place tomorrow. 5th round, the penultimate round of the tournament. Completely unmissable. We will be live noon Brasilia time, and we won't miss any detail of this spectacle. If you like the analysis, don't forget to like it, and see you in the next videos. Subtitles by Adriana Zanotto.